What's going on, guys? Lucky Brent here. Just want to do a video in reflection to the news that we've had in the last 48 hours of Danny Frawley's death on Monday in a car accident that has yet to been confirmed, but looks all in all was suicide. And it's really quite a wake-up call for me in terms of dealing with how to deal with depression and depressive related illness. And for those that don't know, I'll give a little bit of a history on myself. I had chronic fatigue syndrome when I was in my early 20s, and that was sparked on by a depressive related illness. And yeah, basically I felt like I couldn't get out of bed for about a year and a half, and gave up footy, gave up everything that I held dear to myself going through high school. And then coming out of that, the only way I sort of got out of that was doing a personal development course, and teaching myself coping strategies, and having a sort of daily plan to get through life. And after about 4 or 5 years of doing that and being really positive, I sort of fell off the wagon with that type of thing. And probably for the last 4 or 5 years, I've really struggled with depression again. Not as intense as it was when I went through the chronic fatigue stuff, but it's always been sort of like it's been like a well, they call it the black dog, and it was almost like my black dog's been my best friend for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And it's just constantly followed me everywhere. And that's probably the biggest sort of positive to come out of it, is that I will be seeking help, and I will be speaking with my GP today to get an action plan in, and maybe go on some antidepressant type stuff, and sort of get my life back on track a little bit. And it's been kind of a whirlwind this year. I've had some issues with my workplace, and it's really got me down. And I've been really inconsistent in going to work the last year or so, which has impacted all my colleagues. And when I sort of go back into the workspace, I've got a lot of anxiety about going back because of what people would think of me being away. And it really hasn't been a healthy situation for myself. I really thought I was getting on top of it about 3 or 4 months ago, basically when I started doing the AFL fantasy reviews, and the match reviews and all that type of stuff. I felt like I was getting really on top of my mental health. And to be able to do something like that, like put videos out there on YouTube and stuff like that, takes a lot of, well, it took a lot of courage for me to even sort of step out of my comfort zone and try and do that type of thing. And yeah, then for whatever reason, about a month ago, I've been struck quite heavily with it, and struggled to stay on my feet. But yeah, this I'm gonna say it's a suspected suicide, because with car accidents and stuff like that, you hear of deaths in car-related incidents, and there's always a mention of it was a high-speed incident, or he fell asleep at a wheel, but they're not saying that this time. They're just saying it's a single person or a single vehicle accident, and they're not going any further with that. So, evidence suggests that the poor bastard took suicide as an option. So, yeah, and that's just blown me away. It's got me thinking of how if something major was to happen in my life when I'm in the mindset I am now, how I would react to that. Um, it's yeah, been a big sort of wake up call. So, guys, if you are struggling out there, and I know a lot of you are, seek advice. You know, call the Beyond Blues, speak to your GP, go to a psychologist. There's no weakness in it anymore. It's we go through life at the moment, and there's a big gap in work-life balance, and we seem to be working ourselves to death, and in hopes of, you know, retiring one day when we're too old to really enjoy it. And you know, everyone's got money troubles, and yeah. So if you're struggling, guys, please do take care out there, and seek help. There's a lot of people out there that will assist you. As far as the man, I grew up, so coming out of like Spud finished the Richmond job basically when I was about 18, 19, and so I've had 10 years of listening to Spud in the media, and I've sort of followed everything that he's done through the rub. He was on SEN for a while, and and yeah, he was on the rub, he was on SEN, he was on the bounce, and all those shows were all the better for having Danny Frawley involved. I remember very vividly through my early 20s, every Saturday afternoon, it was a ritual at our place that I listened to the rub on Triple M with JB and Gary Lyon and the Purple Headed Warrior and Dunstall and BT, and those guys, they were like close friends. Like you'd get up, you'd listen to them, you'd laugh with them, almost to the point of tears. The banter levels were incredible. I don't think we'll ever hear radio quite like that again, where, you know, doing the 360 reviews, and Danny giving the head wobbler of the year, and all that type of classic banter. It's all it's all archived now. Going forward to watching him on the bounce, when he first started, when it was Dunstall and him and Andrew Gaze, and again, the banter levels will probably never be seen like that in our little PC environment that we have these days. But, you know, the banter levels between Dunstall and Frawley and Andrew Gaze was next level, and always a perfect wind up to, you know, a round of AFL footy. No matter if you won or lost, you always come away from the round with a smile on your face if you watch that show. I guess that's why it's such a shock for everyone to deal with at the moment, because we all get so emotionally invested with this football delusion that we consider it larger than life. And I think Titus O'Reilly put it best yesterday. I think it was that we put our faith in, you know, 20-year-olds to go out on a Saturday, and if they don't perform better than the other lot of 20-year-olds, then, you know, we're depressed for a week. And that delusion of AFL football is quite wide, and I'm kind of well aware it's sort of society's distraction from, you know, the lack of work-life balance, and yeah, it's it's really sad because everyone has a connection to football. Like, if you believe in the delusion, which I and millions of Australians do, no matter where you go in Australia, whether you go interstate to Melbourne, you go to New South Wales, Queensland, WA, the NT. If you go somewhere and you're wearing your footy Guernsey and someone comes up and starts talking football to you, you've immediately got a connection there, even though you might have no other no other you know, commonalities or nothing in common. Footy would always bring you to a place where you could have a conversation, and that's quite beautiful. And I think that's where everyone's so sad about Spud, is that he was a big part of our connection to the game. He threw a lot of energy at AFL, and whether he was a player, a coach, or media personality, his larger than life character was a major connection for everyone, and to see how he mingled with not only the people that were close to him, you know, the Gary Lyons, the JBs, the Jason Dunstals, that he was so, you know, closely interlinked, but he was almost the fabric of the game, even to, you know, the Eddie Maguires and everyone. Um, it's a real big loss to the game, and I can understand why the community's so devastated by the loss. Some of it, like the only real playing memory I have of Spud was I was a Geelong supporter when I was growing up. Like, a lot of my friends were Crow supporters and stuff like that, and before Port came into the AFL. But I just love Gary Ablett Senior, and the only time I ever saw Gary Ablett Senior get beaten was a game against Spud Frawley, and he was an amazing fullback in a time of full forwards. Like, you know, obviously he didn't really have to play on Lockett, but there was Dunstall, there was Modra, there was Ablett, there was so many really great full forwards. Jakovic, you know, and he held his own and BT, obviously, and he held his own in any match that he was in, and to hear some of the testimonials about how great an athlete he was, and um, yeah, it was really quite sad. I think everyone's got this sort of the vision, or seen the vision in the last 24 hours of him and EJ Witten, and that's probably one of my earliest football memories. Was seeing EJ Witten in the car going around before the State of Origin match at the MCG, and Spud Frawley next to him, and I guess that just speaks volumes of the character that he was when he was at the Saints and playing for the Big V. Was you know, for Teddy Whitten to love him so much, being the avid Victorian, the bloke with the most passion, and yeah, it speaks volumes to how well Spud was respected as a player. Unfortunately, he wasn't so respected as a coach, even though he dragged a pretty mediocre, really, Richmond side to a prelim in 2001, and the disrespect he got around that was hard to watch. Was hard to watch. So I quite enjoyed Spud as a coach. I thought he was quite refreshing, and but I suppose if you don't get results, then that's that. But yeah, I mainly wanted to speak about his media stuff. You know, some of the Triple M, the rub stuff will forever last in my mind. The blowing your own trumpet, you know, the head wobbler, all that type of stuff was classic banter, and I'll never forget it. So I think that's all I'm going to say on it, except for yeah, rest in peace, Danny. We're all going to miss you very much, my man, and in a way, thank you for the legacy that you'll leave behind. As I said, to anyone who's suffering with mental illness and stuff like that, please, please seek medical advice and, yeah, and get yourself on the right track. Stay well, people. Take it easy. Peace.